First introduced with a brief appearance in The Incredible Hulk, Wolverine has taken on many heroes and foes over the years, and has done so passing through a great many iterations. As a formidable member of the X-Men, he's been clawing his way through our comic book pages for literal decades, and has had many an adventure along the way. But while skirting on the darker side of heroism for so many years, Wolverine has sometimes been known to drift too far, and cross the line into levels of villainy. He might be the best at what he does, but everyone knows that what he does isn't very nice. So, I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Comics, and here are the 10 worst things Wolverine has ever done. Number 10, he tried to sleep with Mary Jane while in Spiderman's body. Ew. 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 The early 2000s was a time when the body swap trope was all the rage, and comic book characters have had a rich history of such stories themselves. One such example is the time when Jean Grey decided to punish Wolverine for his inappropriate advances by using her powers to make he and Peter Parker swap bodies. This was the event which led into the storyline of Ultimate Spider-Man number 66 to 67. While a punishment this may have been, Wolverine having to put up with the tedious nature of high school trivialities and the like, he soon discovered there were actually things he liked about living the life of 15-year-old Parker, such as his girlfriend, Mary Jane Watson. So, making the most of being a teenager again, he did what any morally upstanding hero would do, and attempted to sleep with her, leaving the real Peter Parker to apologize for his uncharacteristic behavior when they were returned to their own bodies. So, there you have it. Ultimate Wolverine was a bad nonce, and is now #cancelled. Number 9, he created the villain Nuke. Frank Simpson had a troubled childhood even before Wolverine came on the scene, with an alcoholic, abusive mother and a father thoroughly demoralized and spiritually diminished by his wife's behavior towards their family. His upbringing led to poor behavior outside his home, catching the attention of the villain Romulus, who was behind a super soldier program and sent an agent named Betsy to infiltrate the Simpson family, posing as a babysitter. She went on to convince Frank to kill his mother. Working as an operative of Romulus, Logan kidnapped Frank Simpson after murdering Betsy and convinced his father, Charles Simpson, to commit suicide. The boy was placed in a psychological conditioning program designed to produce super soldiers. If kidnapping him as a child wasn't bad enough, Logan came back for him when he was an adult soldier in Vietnam, kidnapping him again under a false Russian identity. He then tortured Frank ruthlessly, brandishing his face with an American flag, after which time he became the Daredevil villain known as Nuke, who was also the guy who laid waste to Hell's Kitchen during Born Again. Number 8, he became a tyrant. After the defeat of Apocalypse by the X-Men, all seemed relatively peaceful, until the arrival of a spacecraft in Manhattan. Logan and a team of other X-Men were sent to investigate the craft, and if necessary, deal with any hostile travelers. They never returned. A decade later, Wolverine emerged again as the replacement for the defeated tyrant Apocalypse, and ruled with even more extreme barbarism and a tyrannical temperament. He led an army called the Black Legion and attempted many evil acts, among them just being, destroying all human life. Number 7, he killed AntMan. If you've seen Avengers Age of Ultron, you'll know that Tony Stark created the apocalypse-harboring machine of doom that is Ultron. That film was a significant departure from the original comic book story, in which Hank Pym was the creator of the robotic rascal. Who better to stop such a myopic scientist than a rage-fueled ruthless stabbing machine such as Wolverine? With Ultron wreaking havoc, as he was often prone to do so, Wolverine and the Avengers gathered and discussed their plan to defeat him. Ultron resided with his armies in the future, keeping him safe from the Avengers, so several of them decided to use a time machine to travel ahead and do battle. Wolverine and Sue Storm decided to adopt an alternate approach, however. They traveled back in time to search out original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, and kill him before he could create Ultron. They succeeded in this mission, but it ended up making things rather worse than they were before, leaving the future even more horrendously dystopian. So they traveled back again to rectify the mistake, ultimately just making things worse still, as they caused time to break itself and all the multiverses to spill out into one. Crikey, it's like they haven't seen that Treehouse of Horror with the toaster. Number 6, he was brainwashed into killing Northstar. While working for the newly allied Hydra and the Hand as their brainwashed operative, Wolverine showed up to attack the X-Men. He was ordered to target Kitty Pryde to demonstrate his loyalty to his new masters, but she used her power to phase out of the way. Missing her, he managed to hit Northstar instead, who was just standing right behind. Kitty Pryde struck him in the head with a wooden post, breaking it against his skull. Cyclops unleashed a furious attack to little avail, and Logan finally received a forceful bash to the head from Captain America's mighty shield. Ultimately, Wolverine was captured and deprogrammed, and Northstar was resurrected as a new brainwashed operative in his place. Number 5, he became a gangster. In 1950s era San Francisco Chinatown, a vicious gang known as the Black Dragon Tong tormented their community. Enter Wolverine, who toppled and killed their leader, with his girlfriend Lynn taking the empty throne. Many years later, he returned to San Francisco and took it upon himself to remove Lynn from her position of power after she tried to murder him. She was then removed, and Wolverine took her place in order to fill the resultant power vacuum and attempt to quell simmering tensions with rival gangs, which were bringing them to the brink of war. It may have been somewhat of a noble justification for heading such a network, but Wolverine has been part of several criminal empires over the years, and with his temperament and skills, it's fair to say that he fits the role quite well. Number 4, he murdered a child. Marvel fans won't need reminding that humans are particularly fond of mutants, with many fearing their powers. Unfortunately, a teenage boy somewhat legitimized this fear by accidentally incinerating a large collection of people in his proximity. This happened when he discovered his mutant flame powers for the first time, which is usually a stressful experience for most mutants, even without the element of harming those around them. Instead of coaching the boy through this new hardship, Ultimate Wolverine, aka Bad Nonce Wolverine, tracked him down, finding him in a cave. He talked to the boy and explained, "Look, if it ever got out a mutant did this, by accident, on purpose, don't matter. That'd be it for mutants. They'd round us all up. All of us. So see, there's a bigger picture kind of thing going on." He then proceeded to kill the boy, viewing it as a justifiable means of protecting the public perception of the mutant populace. Number 3, he killed his own son. After Logan's pregnant wife Itsu was killed by the Winter Soldier, her baby was cut from her womb by Romulus and sent to be raised by a young Japanese couple. They named him Akihiro, but he was referred to as Dakin by the family servants and other locals, the name meaning bastard dog. Eventually, he learned that his adopted mother didn't love him and had fallen pregnant with a new child. This led to a confrontation whereby his claws were involuntarily sprung, injuring his mother. She couldn't bear to harm him, so instead killed herself. Dakin was then taken away by Romulus once again, and over time, molded into a tyrant. This placed him at odds with his biological father when they finally met, and pushed them to battle. In the end, Logan won, filled with sorrow at having to stop his son by holding his head face down in a puddle until he stopped breathing. Before this battle, Dakin had tried to murder Wolverine in a similar way, by trapping him in a tank filled with water and leaving him there to drown. Number 2, he let Storm get kidnapped. Published in 1987, Uncanny X-Men number 215 presented an incident of embarrassing carelessness by an impulsive Logan. Wolverine and Storm went to investigate the burning house of Sarah Gray, Jean's sister, trying to determine what had caused the fire. As the two searched the remains of the building, Wolverine detected the scent of Jean Grey, who was thought to be dead at the time, as she usually is in the comics. At this point, all other priorities seemed to vanish for him, and he charged off into the woods towards the smell, carelessly swinging his fist behind him, hitting Storm in the face. She was propelled to the ground, unconscious, and he didn't even stop to check if she was okay, but rather continued ahead, completely consumed by his new mission. Afterwards, Storm was taken by hunters who chased mutants for sport. She awoke chained up in the dungeon of a hunting cabin, and really, Wolverine was to blame. Number 1, he killed all the X-Men. Published in 2008, Old Man Logan depicted a version of the character who had renounced his violent ways. Living in a dystopian world with a wife and family, he refused to use his claws under any circumstances, something he stuck to so strictly that he willingly took beatings from thugs of the Hulk gang, who'd come to collect his family's rent. The reason for this dramatic transformation was a traumatic past event which Logan both suffered and also perpetrated. Years prior, during a large-scale attack on the X-Mansion by 40 or so assailants, Wolverine ruthlessly killed all the attackers to ensure the safety of the mutants housed. Soon after, he realized that he had been deceived by an illusion from Mysterio, and all the attackers he thought he killed were actually the X-Men and the other mutant students. Yikes.